Hello and welcome to Recruiting in Hospitality from Caterer.com. As ever, I'm Lancelot Narayan, and as you know, in each programme, we invite top names from the world of hospitality to discuss recruitment, development, retention, as well as other matters that affect you and your team. So thanks for joining us again. This is going to be a really good one. Well, they're all good ones. What am I talking about? They're all good ones, but this is going to be quite special because I'll tell you why. As you know, every year we hold our Caterer.com People Awards. Now, I don't need to explain the pandemic has put a spanner in the works for everybody, and we've, had to cancel our event, usually a big sit-down awards dinner. Last year, however, we did something a bit different. We had, instead of the 15 categories, we had just 3 categories with 15 winners in each. I know, it's mad, isn't it? It's crazy. But it was a great way to celebrate all the hard work that's been done during that very difficult time by hospitality employers for the benefit of their teams. One of the categories, and a very important one, is employee wellbeing. And one of the winners of that category was the very cool hotel group, Malmaison du Vin. And I am delighted to say I have with me today the head of HR for Malmaison. Would you please say hello to Kate Lees? Hello, Kate.
Hi, Lance. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. I'm really glad we could do this and spend this time together. It's great. Um, Look, let's just get into it because there's a lot to talk about. Why was it important for Malmaison to embed a well-being initiative into the company culture? Why was that?
Well, personally, I don't feel it was important just to Malmaison. I feel it's important to all businesses. It's not just a nice to have anymore, a tick box exercise. I just think it's so important. It's so essential. And, we were looking at it kind of end of 2019, feels like a long time ago now,
So
early
before the pandemic
2020.
kicked in.
Yeah, literally just before. And just recognizing the increase in cases we were seeing, absence and performance related issues, which were linked to well-being and mental health. And so it really just felt like the time, right? We need to focus on it. We need to look at it a bit more and just try and be more proactive and educate people within our business and our guests as well, and hopefully start to have an impact on the culture.
Right, right. So it was February 2020, right, when Malmaison implemented its first mental health and
Yeah.
well-being policy, and it was a strategy as well. How exactly did the program come into being? What was the process? What brought you to that? I mean, you've explained briefly what brought you to that point, but what was the process for you? What were the sort of the details?
So for me, I did a lot of research. It's an area I'm very interested in anyway. And there's so much content out there. There's lots of companies doing great things. And the first place you've got to start is with a policy, I believe, and build from there. Because you need to be saying that you're committing to something, and this is what you're going to stand by, and the reason for the policy, and focusing on this area. So I did all my research, looked at lots of examples, came up with a really comprehensive, I felt, but simple and achievable policy. And from that, a plan for the following 12 months of what we would introduce within the business. And it all started in February 2020 with launching the policy at our general managers conference. So we had, 37 hotels represented by their hotel managers, and it was a chance to put it on the agenda, get it on the table, and have a good discussion about it, and see how they were seeing it was impacting within their teams, and talk about what we could do essentially as a business and what we we're going to drive, but what they could do within their properties as well.
Was there a general consensus amongst the 37?
Consensus of what?
I mean, was there a complete agreement? Were there? All right. What problems did you face?
Well, I think it's fair to say in any walks of life, you know, in personally, at work or in the media, there is still a group of people that don't buy into mental health and well-being. You know,
Right.
it's about snowflake generation, it's woke, it's not real, people just need to get on with it and you know, pull themselves together. And I think that, you know, that has definitely reduced in the last 2 years across the board. I feel that people are so much more open and aware that it, you know, it is an important topic, and you know, it's not just wokery, for want of a better word.
Wokery.
But you know, and I don't want to disparage our managers, because the response was great.
Don't
But
do
what
that,
was
Kate. Don't do
no,
that.
but what was good with, you know, I did have some challenges. You know, people would challenge, well, why is it important? You know, I don't see that there's a problem. I think, you know, it just relates to people that don't want to be at work, you know. So we had good discussions about it. And you know, I think that's always natural when you've got such a large group of people and you're covering a topic which at the time was, I think, fair to say, divisive for a lot
Mm.
of people.
And it
Um,
wasn't that long ago, was it, Kate?
it wasn't, but I remember thinking at the time we had our conference just after Caroline Flack had passed away, and so it's very topical for the time anyway. And obviously we've been working on all the content for a few months, but it really felt like that time before the pandemic really put it on the agenda,
Yeah.
you know, nationally, and people were much more aware, and so yeah, I think people were more open to the conversation, perhaps.
Yeah, absolutely. I can imagine that you know, you might have had issues with people, but you persevered.
Mm.
So how did you implement how did you implement the plan? What are the different strands of the program? Um, because
Well,
it can't be just one thing that you just throw out there. Then it has to be multifacets. Can you talk
no,
us through
no.
that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, if you don't mind, it's probably easier to break it down into year one and year two,
Okay,
perhaps,
sure.
because
Yeah, yeah.
we had a strategy before the pandemic hit, and then we had to adapt it as time went on. So it
Right.
did change, in honesty.
You
So when
have to, don't you? You have to
exactly,
make it work. Yeah.
exactly. So we started off with the conference, with a workshop and some training around what it all means and what it's all about, and then pushing kind of 3 or 4 key areas that we had in place that were not, you know, time sensitive and were easy to just introduce and promote. So we were promoting our communications platform, Flow, which is now called Mapal One.
Be called.
Um, I'm going to get in trouble now. Mapal, Mapal,
Okay.
One, formerly Flow. So I'm sure people could find it, which is a really
Right.
great.
Yeah. Okay.
So we had e-learning through there, and it was the first time we've also had a central communications platform. So we were communicating on like a newsfeed, business updates board. So we would be talking about certain things. Alongside that, we were using at the time Rewards Gateway as our benefits platform, and they had 4 different areas within that: mind, money, munch, and move, which tackled, you know, areas which all contribute to well-being, financial well-being and physical, etc. So we had that, and we also plan to do have a well-being champion within each of our properties, who would be part of the employee committee that we already had in place, and would receive training from us to not be an on-site counsellor by any means, but be someone who was comfortable in signposting people to support, and
How
maybe,
would you choose that person?
well, we wanted to kind of have two-pronged approach. So firstly, people that wanted to be it, because I really strongly believe, especially in this topic, you can't force someone to be interested, to endorse it, to be really educated about it. So I wanted volunteers, but then on the split side, we also needed managers to feel that they were the right person. So the plan was, it literally, I think we'd launched the nominations in March for this person, and then of course furlough hit, and everything kind of changed a little bit. But we were going to use that in employee wellbeing champion to kind of help just with the communications aspects and just help us with talking about it more. So nothing was groundbreaking at that point, you know, nothing was crazy or really innovative. It was just starting from scratch, really, and start wanting to make a change.
What other problems did the pandemic or lockdown throw into the works? What
Oh
other
God.
problems did you face?
Um,
Don't say everything.
oh, I won't say everything. A fair amount. It, like you said, it meant that you had to adapt, didn't it? And it
Yeah.
meant that we had, especially in hospitality, such a contrast of, you know, a fair amount of people still needing to work. So in our hotels, we had to have a skeleton team. We still had a lot of us centrally who were working really hard trying to keep things together. And then you've also got, you know, a large part of the workforce who are furloughed, where I think some people, you know, enjoyed it, but I know a lot of people really struggled as well, you know, not just financially, but they may have lived on their own. They may have really loved their work, and that was something that was so important to them. And I always consider it that the pandemic was hard for everyone, but in a different way. And so it was trying to balance the very different needs of those groups of people. And I think ultimately a lot of it came down to community and family and wanting to bring people together and give people that chance for communication and interaction if they wanted it.
What about you personally? How did you cope with lockdown and furlough?
Oh gosh. Well, I really struggled, in honesty. I really did. I live on my own. You know, I've got a small flat, so you know, my workspace at home is my living space. And you know, I was really lucky that I was able to work from a couple of hotels which are really close to me while they were closed. And so, you know, I get on really well with the teams there and was able to do that. But, you know, I didn't have any family around either. So, you know, I couldn't even wave at anyone from the garden, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
So I really struggled with that. I usually travel for work. I love doing that, and I love meeting our teams. And so having that taken away was quite tough. And alongside that, the work that HR we were doing was quite intense, you know, dealing with wanting to support people as best as possible, but also still having normal HR issues as well, just on a reduced scale. Um, we were very slow to want to make any changes and feel we had to in terms of um, our workforce and doing consultations. We did that, you know, well after the summer.
Because there was
But
a lot of pressure to what should we be doing?
yeah, and we were very good. We sat it out. We did not make any rash decisions early on, like a lot of others did. You know, we'd already put in place before furlough, doing short time and layoff before redundancies. We were very adamant that we wanted to keep as many people as possible and not jump and make rash decisions. But after the summer, you know, as things kept continuing, we needed to. And so in the first instance, where possible, we tried to reduce contracted hours rather than lose headcount, so that we
Yeah.
could then keep people on board, keep them employed, and top them up later. And so we actually, and with our teams who actually agreed to that as well, we saved a lot of jobs, which was fab. But you know, alongside that, that was an awful lot of consultations and meetings, and really feeling for those people going through it, but also, you know, having to take that on yourself. So I think it's been very interesting. It's been tough but interesting, and I think anyone who's worked in hospitality over the last couple of years will never forget all the things that they faced, all the things they experienced, but also, you know, what's great about the industry, and that's the people.
I don't think people are going to forget those lessons that they've learned, how it's changed them
Yeah,
as well, and changed systems,
yeah,
or the way things
absolutely.
work. We're never going to go back, and I think arguably it's for the better. On that note,
Mm.
how has your wellbeing program changed? How's it grown?
Well, in the first year of the pandemic, it changed because we didn't do the wellbeing champion element to start with. And what we did is we relaunched our employee committee kind of, I can't even remember when it was in that year now, but when people were able to go back to hospitality venues in some capacity and we had more of the workforce back, we changed what we were doing then, from an engagement perspective.
Yeah.
So we relaunched Your Voice, which is our employee committee. And then
Can
when,
you talk a little bit about that, about your
yeah,
voice? How does it work?
so how we do it in our business is we have an employee committee on each site. Although in cities where we've got more than one property, we've asked the question, do you want to do a cluster committee? Because there's actually lots of benefits from doing that and building relationships between sites.
Right.
So there is no mandate. So when I relaunched it in the pandemic, I wanted to be clear, you know, you don't have to have one person from each department. You need people that want to be on it. We don't want people just having to turn up and feeling like they have to and, you know, then get involved in all these things and not really buying into it. I'd rather they have 3 people that are really interested than have 10 that aren't. So just have a core group of people that are really keen to be part of it. And then they've got a structured format for meetings where they discuss sustainability, DEI, ideas for the brand, ideas for their hotel, staff area, well-being, all sorts. But they're a really key kind of things that I want them to cover as a minimum. So if they don't have time, if they've got a really small team, if things are stretched, I just say, you know, there's a couple of things that are really important to do. Try and organise one engagement activity a month as a minimum. And also just try and make sure that the central communications that I send out every month is being communicated out, because that will include things like updates to support services, updates to benefits and the good stuff. So I always recommend that. So it's got to adapt to each site and what they're able to do at the time, I think.
How is it working now? Are things going smoothly? Is it grown to a point where it sort of not takes care of itself, but you know, everything's in place?
I don't believe that it takes care of itself, to be honest. I think there's some sites where they are fantastic at it and they've got really passionate people who drive it. But I do think it's important centrally that you're driving things like that and initiatives, because the nature of operations is it's so busy, and especially it's now still so hard, isn't it, with recruitment, retention.
Yeah.
You've got to have you've got to have yeah, a bit of support and a bit of a reminder sometimes, and someone trying to give you ideas or central activities people can join, because it's not always possible on site. So honestly, it's not perfect. You know, some sites have been doing it well throughout, some are a bit kind of ad hoc, but they've also been struggling, you know, with recruitment. So I think that's completely fair enough. But bizarrely, we're just about to relaunch it again, you know, just a bit of a refresh, trying to make it simpler and easier still, showing the success stories and the really great initiatives that some sites have done, and talking again about, you know, this is kind of your voice light, which you can do where you're limited. This is what you could do when you've really got time. So, but anything you do is better than nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an ongoing process.
Yeah, absolutely.
What results have you seen since the beginning to now
Well,
amongst employees?
in honesty, it's not very data led, but I can tell you my
Is it
opinion.
touch and feel?
Yeah, I was really felt quite proud actually, because we had several, or I had several people that have come to me over the last year or two, because we also partnered with the Burnt Chef project
Right. Yeah.
a year ago. We've
Yeah.
been
We
doing a
had
lot.
Chris Hall on the program recently.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
of course. So we've done a lot of work with them, and through that, you know, we've got Burnt Chef talked about on our menus. It's talked about at check-in as a way to donate money instead of getting your room cleaned. There's lots of touch points where it's used. It's people can't really choose to not take it in, it's starting to filter through. And so I've had people that have come to me and said, thank you so much for everything that's kind of been talked about, because I always thought I was just a difficult person. I would never sleep well. Anxiety wasn't a thing. I was just highly strung. And then after hearing more and more, I went to my doctor, and actually, this is what I've got. And I'm now on medication, I'm getting counselling, and I've never felt so good. And I've had quite a few people kind of come to me in that way, and people that, dare I say, you wouldn't expect, that again, everyone wears a mask, don't they? You don't always know whether someone's struggling. And I think, yeah, for me, that's the most important thing. Even if there's a small group of people that have got help on the back of us talking about this subject more and trying to do more, then it's worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So there's generally been a good reaction from team members since this all started.
Yeah, oh, definitely. I think so. Any situation where you've got someone who you might be concerned about, or you're starting to, see some issues, we've got a one-page, very simple mental health and wellbeing guide, which outlines all the support services that the business provides and the tools that they can use. So, including a wellness action plan they can fill out and give to their manager, including the Burnt Chef text service, our EAP,
Yeah.
like so much. And we're also encouraging managers to do what we're calling a monthly check-in, which is a chance just to touch base, have a coffee, sit down, and just check in and see how people are. And it's just those little things, I feel, over time will change the culture and enhance the culture, and make things better. We also did something I was really pleased with in lockdown, I think number 3, in January 21. So we committed to doing it ended up being 11 weeks of kind of activities every weekday to give everybody across the business a way to interact and communicate with people if they wanted to. So we did live workout classes, the chefs did demos and live cook-offs. We had people giving us tours around different properties across the world, because we've got our parent company, which is across the world and has sites in lots of places.
Yeah.
And yeah, all sorts of different things. Chris came and talked from the Burnt Chef. And so we did 5 activities a week for 11 weeks, as it turned out, because at the start we committed to doing it until the lockdown was over. And I don't think we thought it'd be that long, but just doing that, and again, people starting to recognise each other from across the business, people interacting in lots of ways that they wouldn't have previously. And so I think a plan for future would be, not doing that every day, but having an activity, more regularly to give that opportunity as well, which helps with the community.
Yeah. You couldn't do it every day. You'll just be exhausted.
Yeah, I think it got to a point where we said, right, we recommend you go for a walk.
Yeah.
That was a slow week, but
Yeah. Yeah. Brilliant. Brilliant. What did it mean to your team being named a winner at the 2021 Caterer.com People Awards?
Oh, it was so great, honestly. It meant a lot, because we have worked so hard, and we really wanted to make a difference. We wanted to support our teams and wanted to do a great job. And sometimes it's easy to feel like you're not doing that. And I think particularly for us, going from having nothing, to having quite a comprehensive program of things, and wanting to improve all the time. I'm really proud of where we've got to, and to be recognised for it, by such, an important organisation in our industry was really great, and we were really pleased.
That's great. That's really
Mm.
good. That's really good. Because we just thought, how can you pick one winner? Everyone's done a great job, and you guys really stood out with the initiatives that you put in so much work to it, so it's brilliant. So you're gonna sort of give the whole program a refresh. What are your
Mhm.
plans moving forward?
So the other thing we're going to do starts on Monday. Actually, I've put together a 45-minute workshop on managing absence and welfare. And so we're going to be running that kind of every month, every 2 months over Zoom for any managers across the business to join. Because one of the difficulties we have is like a lot, you've got lots of sites. We can't get everywhere face to face, and actually the easiest way to get to people and to get them involved in training, because they don't have much time, is short sessions. So I rolled out managing performance recently and bringing out this one as well, and it's really to help people feel more confident in what they can and can't do in this area as a manager. I hear a lot from managers that they're worried about what they can and can't say. They're worried that, oh, I can't do anything about this person's performance because of this issue. And actually, it doesn't need to be really complicated, and they're not expected to be experts. I'm not expected to be an expert. We're not medical professionals, but we can always signpost and can always try and make adjustments where possible and do lots of things like that. So that's a really key for us now, trying to educate more of our manager workforce. We did last year with the Burnt Chef training for our general managers, which was a half-day intensive training. So that was really great. And now it's just following it through the business. So that's number one. What else are we doing? The other thing that we want to focus on is mental health first aiders. That's a big one for us. So we'd really like to have one on each site by the end of the year. We're really keen to achieve that, because not only for our teams, but unfortunately in hotels, you get some people that go to a hotel because they are in crisis. So there's a real benefit to having people that are
What do you
trained
mean?
to
What
spot
explain that?
that. Um, Unfortunately, hotels are quite a popular place where people are planning to end their lives. And so, unfortunately, a lot of our teams will see people that might be in distress, people that might be experiencing domestic violence, and people ultimately that have had the intention of going to a hotel to end their life. So, I've had lots of people, have to experience lots of awful things at work, and again, it's down to prevention, isn't it? If we feel that there's someone that could be helped, or maybe we need to alert the authorities, then if we've got more people trained to be able to spot that, we may even be able to help one person, maybe more, and so it's worth it. But
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, it's a really, really difficult responsibility that our teams have, and another reason why hospitality is sometimes undervalued. I think people don't realise all the different things that happen, within the industry, and yeah, so that's really important to us. And I think as well, just reinforcing the monthly check-ins, reinvigorating the employee committee. So it's not, again, nothing groundbreaking, it's the simple stuff, but I think it's important not to throw too much at everybody all the time. Try and kind of give it 12 months or so, see what's worked, see what hasn't, and then bring more into it. But I do think it's important kind of annually to be building in this area with D&I, and doing a bit more, because businesses, even ones that are really great, we can always do more, we can always do better, and I think it's important that we try and do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Kate, I've got to say, it's been fabulous talking to you.
Oh, thank you.
It's been really great. Um, Honestly, I mean, you've done such a great job and continue to do so. Uh, it's like we've gathered from just talking to you. It's a non-stop process, and you're doing brilliantly. So thank
Oh,
you very
thanks so
much
much.
for joining me today. It's been great. If you've enjoyed this episode of Recruiting in Hospitality, join us again. Why don't you subscribe? And that way you get to see episodes first. Subscribe to us on iTunes and Podbean and the other one. Wherever you listen to podcasts, or and we're on YouTube as well, you'll be able to see this too. just hit the subscribe button, and you can catch up on all episodes as well. Follow us on social media. We're on Twitter, which is caterer.com, which is caterer DOTCOM. Likewise on Instagram. Follow us on LinkedIn. We're on Facebook now as well. Thanks again, Kate, for joining me today. It's been brilliant, and thank you all, and I hope you found this conversation useful. I hope to see you again. I've been Lancelot Narayan. Take care. Bye bye.